Welcome to Jefferson Liberty Radio, the voice of the state of Jefferson in the Central Valley of California. I am Matthew, and I'm joined today, as usual, with my co-host, Rudy.
Hello, Matthew. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Had a good week. Work, and more work.
Sounds about like mine.
Yeah. Yes. We have a good show for you folks today. We have an interview with Ted Howze. I said it right this time.
You did say it right this time.
Unfortunately, I am not the one conducting the interview. Matthew had to step in for me because, well, when work says work, it's time to work. So, yay for work. And we also will update you on the court case and have a brief message for you for this Memorial Day. So we'll go right into the update on the court case. The judge has basically said nobody will be in there. So it's just going to be the lawyers. So if you were planning on going up the first, don't go. Don't go because you're not going to be able to get in the courthouse. We will update you on information when we receive it. This information comes directly from Terry. So please, everyone, if you were planning on going, do not go. We don't want you just to show up and go there. Where is everybody at?
Yeah, that'd be bad.
Yeah, that would be really bad. So please, we'll update you as that information comes by. And I want to say a few words about Memorial Day. I would like to let everyone start thinking about that when you do your barbecuing or you're going up to the lake and or going shooting or hunting or whatever you're going to be doing this Memorial Day, just remember that there were men and women died for that. Now we say Memorial Day and we often think of we're memorializing all of the veterans, the ones that are alive too. No. We are remembering the men and women that gave the last full measure of their lives. And that goes all the way back to the Revolutionary War to today. So when you sit down and think about those men and women who died, whether they were blue coats or gray coats or men who wore olive drab, fought the Nazis, fought the Kaiser, fought the North Koreans, fought the Vietnamese, the Iraqis, whoever they were. They went out and did the last full measure for you. So I wanted everyone to think about that and pray if you believe in God. If you don't believe in God, just give a moment of silence. Respect. Anything you would like to add, Matthew?
No, that was really good. I would like to echo everything that Rudy said.
Echo. So yes.
You basically said it all. You covered what I would have said. That's perfect.
Good. We have to have our serious moments. We love to have fun here, but we have to have our serious moments. And
yeah, absolutely.
Holidays like this and Veterans Day, these are serious moments. These are time of reflecting about our personal liberties, our freedoms, and who sacrificed for those personal freedoms and liberties for us. So,
Yep.
So just sit down. If you're sitting down, watch, read a book, watch a movie. Just remember who died for you for those things. Now we're going to get back into our interview with Ted Howze. Now, we had to pre-record this because, time conflictings and life and whatnot. Because, Matthew and I have lives, so we do our best to see. we do our best to bring you great content, bring you great interviews. We are still working on a couple interviews. Next week's episode, by the way, we are going to have a very fun episode. It's going to be about 40 minutes. Oh, yes. It's going to be about 40 minutes of just nonstop laughter and fun. So I would strongly recommend everybody wait for next week because it's going to be awesome.
Make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes so you get our episode next week.
That's right. Oh, and if you're on YouTube, press the subscribe button and the bell notification because, subscriptions don't work on YouTube. So there you go.
And they're about to become a whole lot worse. But that's another topic for another day.
Yeah. So without further ado, Matthew, can you please run the interview so everyone can listen to this interesting man?
Well, I am here with Ted Howze. Ted, thank you for joining.
Good morning.
So you're running for the 10th Congressional District. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, my name's Ted Howze. I'm a local veterinarian. As you can tell, we're sitting in my veterinary office this morning for this podcast here in Turlock, and I'm a kind of a lifelong Valley resident. I grew up just south of Fresno, went up and attended college at the University of California at Davis, just in the Sacramento Valley area. And after I graduated in 1994, I settled here first in series and then moved to Turlock a couple of years later, and I've spent 20-plus years here in the area and working out of this office in Turlock. So, local guy. I'm running for Congress in the 10th District because, I've been involved in a lot of things here locally for a long time. I was a Turlock City Council member. I was on the Planning Commission. I was on the County Regional Transportation Board and just really been involved for a long time. And it's kind of been a slow process coming of seeing how our elected leadership in Washington isn't getting anything done for our district. And specifically, we're talking about Congressman Jeff Denham, who I've been friends with for many years, but we've kind of parted company on exactly what a congressman is supposed to do, what he's supposed to represent, and how he is supposed to represent us people in Washington, D.C. So I got into the race basically focusing on wanting to bring federal investment back for infrastructure into roads, dams, developing jobs, basically, all the things that we're going to need to set up this valley for future success. So, just a little brief synopsis about myself and why I got involved in the race.
Well, cool. You talk about being a local Central Valley person. One of the big things is our water rights. So what would you as our congressman do to protect our water rights here in Stanislaus County from illegal seizure from the state of California? Sure.
Well, first of all, and I've said this, if I'm elected to Congress, one of the first things I want to introduce is a Taxpayer Protection Act in D.C., which would prosecute state governments which sell taxpayers fake bond issues, fake, collections of our taxes. So take, for example, our water bond that we passed here in this state. We now have $252 billion sitting in a fund for water projects, and less than 2% of that money has been spent, and not a dime of it on additional water storage. Now, you say, what does that have to do with protecting water rights? Well, the Temperance Flat Dam, those people are ready to go and build that project. They've asked for $100 billion to be released so that they can begin construction on that dam. And Jerry Brown has said, no, he's not going to release that money. So we as taxpayers funded that. We put the money in to do these type of projects. Temperance Flat would go a long way towards providing Southern California with their water needs, and it would protect our water here in Northern California and make it where basically they don't need the Twin Tunnels project. And there's a lot of us that believe that Jerry Brown's not releasing that money so that he can make the case to continue to build the Twin Tunnels and divert more of Northern California's water south. And to me, that's absolute fraud against the taxpayer. They're trying to send that water south, and they know that they're going to take our water rights. And they're using false causes like the Delta smelt and trying to protect salmon going up rivers to places they've never traditionally through history gone. And it's just one scam from top to bottom. So what would I do? I would start to unravel the scams. Number one is protecting the taxpayers and making sure that when we're sold bonds that our money goes into, that we actually build the projects that are supposed to alleviate the issues in the state. And then secondly is at a federal level, fight these scam issues like the Delta smelt and salmon fry, because it's not lack of water, which they're forcing the discharges down the rivers for. It's actually the striped bass that are in the Delta that are non-native and eating everything. So, but they neglect to want to talk about that issue because, it's a way for them to steal our water. So it's a whole integrated process to protect our water rights here in California, and the first thing is telling the truth and identifying the real issues and then approaching them.
Well, that's great. Recently, I don't know if you heard in the news, California Representative Eric Swalwell put forth a proposal for an Australia-like gun buyback program. What are your thoughts on such a program?
Well, my thought is simple. I am a pro-Second Amendment life member of the NRA, and I believe in the Second Amendment, and I believe when it says shall not be infringed means exactly that, shall not be infringed. So I think this is an individual who's violating his oath of office, because any elected official who gets sworn in says, I will protect and defend the Constitution with his hand on the Bible, his or her hand on the Bible. And so for them to immediately be talking about gun confiscation, to me, disqualifies you from holding public office anymore, because you're blatantly going against the United States Constitution. So I think it's unconstitutional. I think that, the people of the United States should be frightened that we have elected representatives that are willing to destroy the document that has granted us the freedoms that we have in this country, and we should get them out of office as quickly as possible.
So what would your position on national CCW reciprocity be?
Oh, I'm in favor. I think that we need a national standard so that we can eliminate all, the infighting that we have between the states. I myself am a CCW holder here in the state of California, and I know it's frustrating when you want to drive across a state border. You have to worry about locking up a gun because you just don't want to take the chance that, have a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
I think that's ridiculous. I think we're Americans, and our right to carry and defend ourselves should not stop at state borders. I think you should have that right whenever you're standing on the soil in the United States of America. So I support it. I will vote for it, and I think it's an unquestioned right we should have.
What's your stance on illegal immigration, DACA, and any of the issues that have come up more recently in the last several years in the news?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm completely in favor of legal immigration. We're a country of immigrants. All of our families immigrated here at some point or another, and I think over time the requirements have changed and stuff. But we all have this kind of shared background of coming here legally at some point. A lot of our ancestors came through Ellis Island. I am firmly against illegal immigration, and the reason being is it's a national security issue. If we don't know who's coming across our borders or through our ports, we open ourselves up, be it acts of terrorism. We are putting ourselves in danger as a country. We have enemies around the world, and we need to keep those people out of our country. Now, as far as DACA and the Dreamers go, there's kind of a unique perspective there from the standpoint that, Dreamers are young people that were brought here to this country by their parents. Now, we've all, I say we all, I was subject to my dad moving around quite a bit as I was a kid. And as a kid, you had no choice. You went wherever your parents went. So you can kind of identify with these young people that fall under the class of Dreamers. The problem is President Obama pulled a unconstitutional maneuver through executive fiat, and he created the DACA program, in which he pitched to these Dreamers that if you're willing to come in, sign up, pay the fee, do all the right things, that he was going to give you some kind of pathway to something, but no promises. So consequently, we had nearly 800,000 Dreamers sign up and become DACA registrants. Now, there's the difference between a Dreamer who's here in the country illegally because their parents brought him here, and a DACA registrant who thought they were doing the right thing, under our laws, because they were legitimately trying to find a pathway to citizenship. So what I would do is I would take the DACA registrants and I would freeze their status. They wouldn't be eligible for deportation. And I'd say you could stay in this country right now while we do two things. While we secure our borders and ports, and while we reform immigration. Because, first of all, our current immigration process only benefits immigration attorneys. They're the ones making all the money, and they're the ones that are dragging this thing out for 15 or 20 years. And the government's backlog. We live in an age, as we're sitting here doing a podcast today, we live in an age of technological revolution. We should be able to find a way technologically to reform our immigration system where we can get people through the system in 5 years or less. So I would secure our borders, I'd reform our immigration system, and then once that's done, I would allow the DACA registrants, the people that signed up and did the right thing, I would allow them to go to the end of the line to earn citizenship. But not until I get those other things done first. Because if we just grant amnesty, which is what my opponent in this race is trying to do, Jeff Denham would grant amnesty, not to 800,000 people, not to 3.2 million people, but to the same 11 to 23 million people he tried to grant amnesty to in 2013 when he was the first and only Republican to sign on to Nancy Pelosi's H.R. 15 bill. So he's been an open borders amnesty guy going all the way back to 2013 when he was working with Nancy Pelosi to grant amnesty to these people. I would allow 800,000 people to get in the back of the line. Otherwise, if you're in this country illegally, you should be deported. Unless you're here on a legitimate work visa or you're already going through the citizenship process trying to do it the right way, you should have to leave the country. So my stance is pretty easy. I support legal immigration and would try to close our borders off and stem the tide of illegal immigrants.
So what would you think about the president's border wall then?
I'm not an engineer. I don't know the best way to secure the border. I'm going to tell you, I believe we need to secure it. If that's a wall across most of the border, if that's a fence across some of it, if that's, electronic measures and drones, and if it's boots on the ground in some areas, it is what it is. I support securing our border in whatever manner that is necessary. And again, I haven't seen the plans. I'm not an engineer. I don't know, if a wall is feasible, I'm all for it. If it's not, I'm for whatever is necessary to get that done.
California recently passed SB 54,
Sanctuary City.
Sanctuary state status to California. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a violation of the federal government's right to control immigration into our country. And the thing about SB 54 is I believe it's unconstitutional. I don't think there should be such thing as a sanctuary state or city. Either way, and you see the big fight back that's coming across the state from cities everywhere. The reality is SB 54 only protects criminals. It doesn't protect American citizens. It doesn't even protect immigrants. It protects criminals. It gives sanctuary to people who have broken the law. So, again, I go back to, we've talked about politicians who take an oath of office that say they're going to protect and defend the Constitution. I believe the federal government ought to go after these elected officials that are responsible for this. I think they ought to be able to come in and say, you violated your oath of office, you're being removed from office. It's very simple. You're not protecting the citizens of your country or of your constituency. And, if they can't remove them, well, then what they should do is slap a big tax lien on them or, some type of fine. We're going to fine you $1,000 a day for every day you're out of compliance. The state of California loves to do that to us, the regular citizens. They'll come in and fine the snot out of our businesses when they tell us we're not in compliance. So I think the federal government should turn around and use that power to bring these politicians and states back in line.
You talked about technology, our modern age of technology. What are your thoughts on net neutrality? It's recently come back up in the Senate. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually support net neutrality. And I know that argument goes both ways, but we do live in an era where you want an open flow of information back and forth through the internet. The argument is without it, internet service providers may invest more in expanding their networks and stuff. But the reality is if you can throttle down some people's content while increasing yours, the internet's becoming a huge tool even in schools for kids to have access to information from everywhere. I think we really have to, in some respects, look at the internet as the library of today. And, there's a lot of kids now don't even know how to go crack a book because they Google everything. So, I think some things for the public good, you say you want full access to all material. So, I have mixed emotions, but I do think at this point net neutrality is probably something we should support just to make sure that everybody has full access to the information that they need.
So would you support regulating those ISPs as public utilities, similar to the electric company, telephone company?
Yeah, I don't know that that's quite necessary if we're telling them they can't throttle back other people's content. I mean, you want to be careful. If you overregulate everything, it's typical of what the government does, you doom innovation, right? So we don't want to stop innovation. What we just do want to say is everybody has equal availability across the platform. So at this point, no, I wouldn't say that. I want to make sure the door is open so all the information can flow through, but we want to take the handcuffs off and let innovation thrive on the internet.
So kind of along a similar vein, we've seen in the last year or so, Google, Facebook, Twitter censoring people for the reviews. what are your thoughts on that, and what role does the government play, if any, in this?
Well, I definitely have serious thoughts about it because I lost my original campaign Twitter account.
Oh, wow.
So several thousands of followers that we were communicating with across the platform. We wake up one morning and Twitter's banned it. And we've never been able to get an answer. We were calling them and everything else because this is an official federal campaign with the Federal Election Commission number. We couldn't even get an answer out of them. We had to go start a new Twitter account and start all over again just as our campaign was getting off the ground. And, I think this is wrong. So I think one of the things that we do have to say, we're talking about the internet and net neutrality, right? I think these social media companies have to be held to a standard. If we're going to have a free exchange of ideas, you may be a private company. Well, they're not because they're publicly traded stocks now, right? You have a responsibility to the public not to censor that exchange of ideas. The First Amendment needs to flow two ways. So, I don't know exactly what the answer is yet, but the censoring of conservative voices and ideas that fall behind the Constitution and liberty, that has to stop. And it's kind of the issue is if you can't have equal and open access to everyone, well, then maybe you shouldn't have access to anyone. So, I support getting in and looking at what these guys are doing and seeing what changes we can make that we have a free exchange of ideas on their platforms.
So similar to the ISPs, would you support treating these companies as public utilities, or would you still allow them to continue as mass media outlets?
Yeah, I think we can allow them to continue on as mass media outlets, but I think they need a set of rules that they have to play by. I think that set of rules has to be. They're not like the evening news. It's not a 30-minute blurb. It's a constant exchange of ideas, and what they're doing is they're throttling some people's ideas down. So, I think if they can come to the realization that they're going to have to be good actors in this exchange of information, then they can continue to move on. And I think that's a good thing because, again, private companies innovate. Think of what they've given us in this ability. So I support leaving them alone if they're willing to play by the rules. If not, then we're probably going to have to pass some type of legislation that treats them again as a public utility and says, okay, well, we're not going to let you do this anymore.
Good.
No, that's it. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So you've signed for the state of Jefferson at one of our meetings a couple weeks back. Would you support legislation or introduce legislation for state of Jefferson or other states like the state of Liberty or the state of Lincoln?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I support the state of Jefferson because most of all, I think every citizen, every resident of a state, of a county, of a city deserves a voice. They deserve the right to be heard and make the case when they feel like they're not being represented properly. And the State of Jefferson group has a great case for the fact that the state of California is not following its constitution. It's not representing its people adequately. And the only people in this state that are receiving any representation are Bay Area and Southern California Democrats. And that's evidenced by the fact that you look at who runs our state in all office. It's San Francisco Bay Area, right? You've got Dianne Feinstein from San Francisco, U.S. Senator Kamala Harris from San Francisco. You got Gavin Newsom now running to be the new governor here, San Francisco. I mean, this is what the joke is. You only get representation out of the Bay Area and Southern California anymore. So I support the state of Jefferson because I feel like there's absolutely the right of the people in this state to ask to split the state if they're not being represented. So I fall behind that 100%. I think the other groups, I haven't quite seen their full proposals. I think there's some issues with trying to split the state into 3 states or more, especially when you look at the splits and you realize it's going to create 3 liberal states, right? Now, instead of 1 liberal state, it'll be 3 liberal states. That's not good for the entire country because last thing we need is 4 more liberal U.S. senators, right? So I think of the ideas that I've seen so far, only the state of Jefferson would make sense, not only for the people of California, but for the entire country as a whole. So, Yeah, I support giving everybody an opportunity to at least have a voice.
What would you think about bringing control of education back down to the state level? Take it out of the federal government's hands and bring it down to a state level.
Yeah, I absolutely think that's the way we should do it. I mean, I think we should abolish the Department of Education federally. I think nobody knows their needs better than local communities do. And being a person who was on a city council and understanding that we know our needs and we can address them, education is the same way. You know what you need locally. Do we need schools that promote more technical training because we have a lot of high-tech jobs? Do we need schools that need a lot more, prep for higher education that's going to send you on to be doctors, lawyers? I mean, we have needs we have to fill. I think the education is best suited at that level, and I think we should let the educational control stay at the local level.
With the advent of Paul Ryan stepping down, who would you support as the next Speaker of the House?
Jim Jordan, the Freedom Caucus. If I'm elected in November, I'm going to caucus with the Freedom Caucus, and Jim Jordan's absolutely the guy that should be the next Speaker of the House.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. We really appreciate it. Where can people find out more about you, and how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. The best way is through our website, just my name. It's www.tedhowze, so TEDHOWZE, tedhowze.com. Look me up by my name on Facebook, on Twitter. It's all the same everywhere you go. Ted Howze.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank Ted Howze for coming on our show and doing the interview. I think Matthew did a very excellent job on the interview. He was very short notice. I literally had that next day to tell him that, hey, you're conducting the interview. I'm sure Matthew was very, yay moment.
Yes, I was.
So,
but I think it went well.
Yes, I think it went very well. Matthew, you personally met with the gentleman. All I have is this recording, and I feel he's got a good content to his character. What do you feel about the gentleman?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he definitely stands for some really great principles. I really appreciated his honesty and the issues and the questions that we asked him. So that was really fantastic. I would really strongly suggest anybody who's interested in the 10th Congressional District, take a look at Ted Howze. He's a great guy.
I like him because of the gun part. See?
Yeah, I mean, I do too.
I'm one of those.
I'll be honest.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that Obama called, the people that hold on to their Bibles and their guns.
Yep.
That's this guy right here.
Yep.
Well,
yeah, absolutely. This episode has been sponsored by Al Certified Safe and Lock. Al's offers locksmithing services and alarm systems for a range of applications including burglary, fire, tamper, and medical emergencies, and much, much more. Al's has been locally owned and managed in Modesto for nearly 70 years, and with thousands of loyal and satisfied customers, you can be sure that Al's will meet and exceed your needs. For more information about Al Certified Safe and Lock, call 1-800-700-4780 or go to alsalarm.com. That's ALSALARM.com. Thank you so much for Al Certified Safe and Lock for sponsoring our show. If you're interested in sponsoring our show, please head over to our website, jeffersonlibertyradio.com, or email us at sponsors@jeffersonlibertyradio.com. We would love to hear your feedback, questions, comments. Email us at feedback@jeffersonlibertyradio.com.
Well, folks, thank you for coming on this episode with us today, this week. We greatly appreciate it. Please subscribe, like, share, listen to our other sister radio shows up at the Reading. That would be the KCNR 1460, and that'll be at Sundays between the hours of 9 and 10. And then the other radio show in, I believe it's Placer, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
It's in Placer.
I think that's right.
And that is between the hours of 10 and 11, and that's KAHI.com. And Matthew, thank you very much for doing the interview again. I duly appreciate it. Yes, everyone have a great Memorial Day.